Now, this trip, so did you stay in the same place for 28 days?
I end up moving, so Kimmy, my wife, come with me for the first 15 days, and it was hell. Like day one or day two, we seen two nice bulls that were leaving the area, and then we never seen a bull in there again for 15 days. And she actually had a bit of elevation sickness. We were climbing up one morning, and she started feeling sick. And we get all, like, we're way out there and we get way back and we're climbing up this mountain and a gunshot goes like straight off in front of us because Colorado's got muzzle loader at the same time. And that was about the point that she's like, look, book me a flight. I'm going to go home. It was one of the kids' birthdays. So then she went home and we were already doing pretty radical stuff like back there. And then I was like, right, fuck it now.
When you say a gunshot went off straight in front of us, like how far in front of you?
100 yards.
Was it shooting in your direction?
No, it was shooting to the side. But still, like, that shit happens, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
People just shoot into, like, movement.
Yeah. But it was more to the point of, it actually wasn't about our safety at that point. It was more about, the hunting's not good. Let's shoot, you know. And, yeah, so she ended up going home, and then I was like, right, I'm going to go pretty radical now and just fucking on a massive mission.
The muzzleloader thing to me is so strange.
At the same time, or are you talking about just shooting a muzzleloader?
Just all the time. I get at the same time it's weird because why would you have a rifle and bow season? Bow season's quiet.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
But the muzzleloader thing in general, all it's going to do is prevent you from getting a good second shot. Because there's muzzleloaders that you can shoot that are good to hundreds of yards.
Yeah.
So it's like you're not limiting the effectiveness unless you're saying that you have to shoot iron sights, and then aren't you limiting the ethical shots that you can take?
You probably are, but how do you argue that and then traditional bow hunting or even bow hunting?
Oh yeah,
You know, because it does take time to get it off.
I'm not saying it should be illegal.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, what are you doing? Like, I would rather use an actual rifle.
Yeah, and just
like a really sighted-in rifle with a great scope and, you know, a good round, like a real rifle.
Yeah. I met a guy with a crossbow this year, not while I was hunting, it was after the hunt was done. And he said he had a scope on his crossbow and he said it's accurate out to 140 yards.
Wow.
As in like shooting a golf ball at 140 yards.
Well, if you got a rest, that's the thing about a crossbow. You could sit it on a log.
Yeah, that's nuts. Like, how much further can we go with this stuff, you know?
Yeah, that's a weird thing. I heard someone describe it like trans men or trans women competing against biological women. If you call yourself an archer, someone described it that way. I think that's pretty accurate.
And then the traditional bow hunters are probably saying that about me and you shooting a compound sights.
Sort of, but, you know, the traditional thing is weird too. Like, I get it. I get all of it. But I think if you're going to shoot a traditional bow, you have to be a guy who's been practicing for a long time, and you have to put a lot of hours every day doing that.
Yeah.
Because it's essentially like you have to judge just based on how far you know an arrow drops. It's all in your head. Like throwing a rock.
Throwing a rock, yeah.
Yeah. If you throw enough rocks.
Yeah.
It's not even throwing a rock, because it's the same. It's like throwing a baseball.
Yeah.
You know, like you have to be really good at it.
Yeah, I did it for about 3 or 4 years, like pretty like hard up. And the best way that I can sum it up is to be regularly successful with a traditional bow, I'd have 50 shots every single day. And I'd have 25 shots for form, minimum, and then I'd have 25 shots as in aiming to be, and so you had to do that every day. So once you get time poor, like it's really hard to keep that up. And then, and I was successful in doing it. But the beauty of a compound bow was, like, even if I was flat out at work, once a week I could shoot. The bow stays sighted in. Yeah. You pick it up and away you go again. It's still hard. Like, you're still fully handicapped. You know, so it's like, it's hard enough without being like, oh, okay, I'll go traditional bow hunting now. So I was just Northern Territory, Australia, like last month. And I had a couple of days with the compound and it was like, had a brilliant hunt, like that done really well. And I was like, stuff it, I'll go with the trad bow for the next couple of days. And then so I hunted with the trad bow and shot a bunch of pigs and a buffalo and stuff like that. And then when I went back to the compound, I felt like I was shooting a sniper rifle. Yeah. Because the recurve's so hard, you know.
Well, I would imagine that it would help your compound bow shooting.
100% it does, yeah. And so my effective range with a trad bow is like 30 yards. Ideally, I'm at 10 or 15. So even having the stalk in that close, which with traditional gear, and then having the compound and being at like 40, 50, and being just like, oh, this thing's done, you know,
Right.
and shooting it. So,
Do you bring a lot of arrows with you when you go on these backcountry hunts?
on the Northern Territory one, I do. Yeah, this hunt,
The
no,
Colorado one. How many do you bring?
5 arrows in the quiver.
That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
What about for practice? Do you practice it all when you're out there?
Yeah, I think I took 7 or 8. So I had a couple in the backpack this trip, and because I shot a grouse as well, so pretty much your arrow's done because usually you're shooting them off a branch. And then one of the days I stacked it pretty hard, like fell over and hit the rest and bent the rest down, or the rest shifted. Then I had spare arrows to actually pull it back up and shoot my bow into place. And luckily it just sort of ripped that grub screw down. So I could see the position that I had to sit in, and I had one shot and it was bullseye straight away. So, but I still wanted a couple of shots because of it. So
yeah.
But like, you're going to shoot one bull.
Right.
You know, it wasn't like I had a mule deer tag or another tag with me. It was just like...
Right, but sometimes you have to take follow-up shots. Sometimes things hit branches.
About 5 arrows in the quiver, you should be all right.
Yeah, you should be.
You should be. Especially if you're limited to a distance, you know.
Are you still using those two-blade solid broadheads?
Yeah.
What company do you use?
Use Cayuga broadheads.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've got a broadhead called
Australians
Pilot
use
Cut.
those.
Because they, like, how can you tell if you're not hitting the bone or not, right? Like, I watch these videos of these whitetail dudes shooting whitetail, and the arrow's hanging out of the whitetail this much. And they still kill it because they got a broadhead that's fucking like 10 inches wide.
Well, they're using a mechanical.
And it just expands and it opens them up. But, like, because we're shooting buffalo, so I do that buffalo hunt once or twice a year. And then, like, some of our bigger deer, like the red deer, are pretty solid as well. With a two-blade broadhead, you can still split bone and punch all the way through the animal, you know. And it's like, if you shoot something in Australia using that sort of setup, like 70 or 80 pound bow, a good like micro diameter shaft, so there's no restriction on the shaft actually passing through the animal after the broadhead, and a decent solid broadhead, if you're not picking your arrow up in the dirt somewhere out the other side, you're like, shit, where did I go wrong? You know. And it's like, so there's hardly any what we'd call like flag in an animal where the arrow's hanging out of it. It's like punch straight through, hole in one side and out the other. Like, that's what you want.
I just know so many people that have made shots with those little single bevel, small, tiny broadheads, and they just, you know, the animal will run so far. Whereas if you hit it with a good 2-inch cut rage, that fucker's not going anywhere.
If you get past the bone, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but if you've got enough horsepower.
If you've shot it in the right